Thanks for taking the time to download and listen to this podcast from CelticUnderground.net. I'm Harry Brady, and this is Andrew H. Smith.
Hi everybody, welcome to Celtic Underground, and this is a genuine pleasure for me. As I said, 35 years in football, and this is just about my favourite person I've ever had the pleasure to meet. Maybe him and Billy Stark, because I knew them McStays before, because we came to Larkhall together. So, Peter Grant, thanks very much for coming on and welcome.
Pleasure, Andrew. Thanks very much for inviting me.
Oh, no, and I was like, Celtic Underground, it's been a Peter Grant fest of recent times because we had an appreciation of you written by our correspondent that calls himself St Anthony.
Oh, that's not bad, that's not a bad name, that. That prated him quite a bit.
And he remembered, he's got an amazing collection of photographs which he puts up. You want to see some of these photographs, they're absolutely stunning. But he also has a lot of newspaper cuts.
Right.
And one of the newspaper cuts he found was from 1981 at Ibrox. Two young 15-year-olds for Celtic came on and took penalties against Alan Rough, and they never missed a penalty.
Oh.
One of them was Charlie Nicholas, the other one was Peter Grant. Do you remember that?
I do remember that, but you're wrong, because Charlie was a first-team player at the time, and he was a blue-eyed boy. He was the king.
Right. Of course, he would have been older than.
And I was in the ground staff. I was 15 because I left school then, and there was. I'm sure it was Rangers. I'm not sure who the Rangers player was, but it was a first-team player for Rangers. Our superstar at the time was Charlie Nicholas. So you can imagine what I was like. Charlie Nicholas was picking up in Chapel Hall where I was born.
Yeah.
And living at the time, no cars or whatever. Charlie came and picked me up in Chapel Hall to take me to Ibrox to take penalty kicks against Rangers. And I'm sure maybe the other team was St Mirren, maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that. The senior player to take 3 penalties, and the junior, obviously, the young player to take 3 penalties. We were all under 16 at that particular time. As I say, I was on the ground staff at Celtic, so I was even nervous just getting in the car with Charlie because it was one of my heroes at that time, in that particular period. And as I said, being a supporter, so going to Ibrox, there was a full house there, even though it was I think it was under 21 international, am I right, against West Germany.
Yeah, right. And Alan Rough was on goal for it.
And the Scottish national keeper was Alan Rough. And the thing was, I think it was, if I'm right, the senior players' school would get strips, if I'm correct, a set of strips from the sponsor, if whoever won, and that would go to their school, which was a big thing then, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
You get a set of strips for free. And fortunately enough, the only thing Charlie said to me before it is, if we win it, remember, keep a lid on it because it's maybe all the Rangers supporters.
Yeah.
It's behind here. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to that bit of advice, as usual.
Oh. You didn't slide behind the post and bless yourself, did you?
No, not that time. I saved that for later years, which is, I'm not getting too much into that. But we were fortunate enough, we scored 6. That was a 6 out of 6, 3 for Charlie, 3 for myself. And I'll tell you what, if I remember the photo right, one thing I always remember, it was in the newspapers, and obviously it was quite a big story, because Charlie, as I say, was the Bonnie Prince Charlie and the Champagne Charlie, all that sort of stuff. And
was he not wearing the socks then?
No socks, nothing. So, as I say, the chain outside the jumper, good looking, the hair and all that. So he had all that. He was like Spandau Ballet. I was just like a wee schoolboy, to be perfectly honest with you. I always remember the picture they put in. I'd been cleaning the boots, and I don't know if you've seen the picture, but I've got the two is I think I've got a thumb up, if I'm correct. I've got a thumb up, but you can't see mine. And the reason you can't see mine is mine's is fully polished. It's actually there, but it's fully polished. Because I was in the middle of cleaning boots when they asked me to get the picture taken. But it was great when we won. Obviously, it was brilliant. I'm bound to the crowd and all that, and Charlie's killing himself because I'm only 15-year-old Ibrox thing. I'm not caring at Scotland. I'm at Ibrox and I've scored 3 penalties out of 3. I don't care. I thought it was Rangers we were playing. And I'm bound to the crowd and all this at 15 years of age. So I was a heighty cheek then. So, yeah, it was a good start. It was especially against Alan Rough, as I say. He was a national goalkeeper at the particular time and ended up being a teammate in later years. And a fantastic guy he was as well.
Brilliant. And see at that, like, I've spoken to a lot of players, like, because you play so early. In those days, you played probably the same. You didn't really play on Sundays at youth football so much, did you?
No.
So therefore, did you get much chance to see Celtic? I mean, obviously you were a Celtic supporter,
yeah. But it was especially when I was young. See, maybe 6 to 12. Your football was predominantly, you'd play like Sunday mornings and whatever, or Saturday mornings, which is always fine because the supporters' buses always left in the afternoon. So it's not like England where you've got a game up north if you're down south.
Yeah.
So you could always manage to get there, unless it was Aberdeen, obviously, away or whatever. Dundee United was probably Dundee at that particular time, two good sides as well. It was difficult to get to them. But predominantly the home games, both, as I said many times before, both grandparents ran the supporters' buses, so they held them up a little bit to get you on them, because nobody really had cars then. But also the fact is, if you played at Barrowfield in the later years, predominantly in the early years, 12 to 14, I think, we played on a Sunday. Under 12s, under 13s, under 14s, I think we played a Sunday. So that was fine. And then on the Saturday, we started to play then. Then that was a wee bit more difficult. But the midweek games were great. The European games were great. Because obviously, for Barrowfield, you seen the big floodlights then. And it was magical running down London Road then to get in for the last 25, 30 minutes. You get up the Rangers end, running up the stairs at the back.
Oh, yeah.
There were 300 stairs at that particular time. And if you remember, the supporters' buses used to park over that side anyway.
We were just... They see that it's a wonder why didn't you all get toxic fumes, because remember when you walking among the supporters and it was all the engines were running and it was like you almost had to be your scarf became like a mask.
Absolutely. Well, I was always in the Rangers end at that particular time when we went from my grandfather, because the buses parked there and then you'd go.
That's right. That's where I started going to the Rangers.
Remember the big black numbers on the white. The paint.
Aye.
It was a big black numbers. I can't remember the exact number. I should do because I feel a bit embarrassed I don't remember the number. But we used to stand at the same bit all the time. And then, but as I say, training nights when you got that little bit, you used to run along and then you'd run up, and it was just it just opened up the Coliseum for us.
Okay, and it was like Celtic had some of the tallest floodlights in Britain.
Absolutely.
It really did.
Well, that's the one thing that I think it's lost a little bit in the respect of training at Barrowfield compared to for the training at Lennoxtown now, because being in the eye of it and being able to see it and being able to get there was magical. Even as a first team player, I thought it was magical that we get stripped at the stadium and then ran up the London Road, or you were up the car. I
think we were still doing that when I started in '89.
No, we still were doing that. To the stadium get changed round, and that was, well, I never trained anywhere else at Barrowfield all my life. We done the exact same thing.
I mean, you were actually, some times would just run up, you wouldn't even take cars.
No, we done that all the time. Apart from me and Mick, one day, Big Mick McCarthy, God rest him, Tommy Burns. So me and Big Mick's in the same team, and the ball's been passed, and somebody shouted over, silly, here, lets the ball go. But it was one of the opposition. And Big Mick's gave me a hard time, and I start giving Mick a hard time. The next two things, the twos are going for each other, but I'm panicking. I'm thinking, please somebody step in. And the great Tommy Burns steps in, and me and Mick are, as I say, not even flat throwing. The usual words at each other.
Yeah.
But Big Billy, God rest him, Big Billy sent us down the road. So the two get sent off the training pitch. That was fine. But little did they know that both of us come up in Big Mick's motor. So the two are laughing. We're pumping their horn after we've been sent down the road. The two are pumping the horn, going down in the same car together. And as I say, it was all forgotten about within 30 seconds, but the gaffer seemed to send us down the road that day. So that shows how competitive training was. But thank God it was only Barrowfield, as I say, and you were only going down to Celtic Park. But I'd done that all my days. I never obviously trained at Lennoxtown as a player.
Did you ever get any kind of nip, for folk that would pass you or whatever,
It was unusual. It was unusual if we didn't. That's what you mean. It was unusual if we didn't. That was the difference.
Remember that dairy? Dairy.
Joe's Kitchen was the best. Joe's Kitchen was the one. That's the one we used to get into. people talk about pasta and that now. That's where we all went. And we used to speak about the game, and we were nearly like fisticuffs with each other, blaming each other for certain things that happened in the game or training or whatever. And then you'd have a rolling sausage and a cup of tea, a mug of tea.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't a cup of tea, it was a mug of tea. That was your past after training in their particular days. But listen, fitness-wise, nobody had worked as hard or trained as hard as we did, and we were really fit teams. Any teams, Celtic were always predominantly fit because 90% of the time you had the ball all the time and you were always trying to attack. And the game, if you remember the games nowadays, it was like basketball, up, back, back. You know, if it went to the goalie, he was putting up the pitch and you were up there in support. So fitness-wise, it wasn't a problem for us. Training was so intense anyway. So the training was hard every day. Even if it was predominantly with the ball, but we always done runs and whatever. So, but Joe's Kitchen was a bit of solace for everybody. We used to get in and have a blather with each other, and we used to love it. But yeah, every day. But I think you'll remember yourself when you used to come up to Barrowfield. We used to kick off at 10 o'clock. So at 10 o'clock we'd kick off, and you could guarantee at 5 to 10 there'd be a council van would go down the back of Barrowfield. The council van would go down the back of Barrowfield. The boys would go down there, and they would set the rubber tyres on fire.
That's right. I remember the rubber tyres.
And they would always smoke would be coming across the pitch, and you'd all be coughing, and we couldn't see each other. And then the boys would go by, pump the horn, you know, as if they see you later, boys, you know what I mean? But that was every day at 10 o'clock. We used to get that, you know. So we were choking in all these burning fumes, you know. But it was hilarious. But we got that every day, you know. And then when you were going out to run back to the training ground, back to Celtic Park. That's all you got all the way down. You ran back because you were that filthy. You were hoping the rain would have washed most of the dirt off you. Anybody in the car wasn't going to allow you in anyway. So that you face that gauntlet every single day, you know. So, but listen, special days and days that'll go out in my grave.
It was great, incredible. Like, I mean, I suppose 84 to 97 in the sense of playing senior games. You know, those 13 years, and I remember. It's one of the most kind of insightful and one of the most self-effacing kind of comments anyone's ever made to me. And I hope you don't mind me bringing it up, because it was, you said to me, I says, God, first half of your career, all that success, and then you had the one trophy for 89 to 97, you know, the one trophy in the last 8 years. I said, it must have been really difficult because you'd known really successful Celtic teams. And you said, well, you know, maybe if they'd been more successful, maybe I wouldn't have played as many games. It was quite a very honest thing to say, you know, because, you know, an acknowledgement, you know, that I don't know, you know what I mean? Well, it is just, it's candid. It's a candid thing to say. Not many people are that self-aware.
I always look at it. I mean, I've always been philosophical in that way. That I was very fortunate. My debut was very fortunate. Someone ends up taking not well. The squads weren't as big then. And when you get an opportunity at 17/18, all of a sudden you're thinking to yourself, would that happen nowadays? Absolutely not a hope in hell that happening nowadays. So I look upon my time as fortune in the respect of that. But listen, I'm not decrying myself, because when Celtic were better teams, I was a better player. When they were poorer teams, I was a poorer player, because I needed good players. I needed good players. I needed good players round about me to make me look half decent. And that's... I would say that about most players do that.
Yes, of course.
Some guys can produce moments of magic on the ball, but Paul McStay, an unbelievable player for Celtic, still thinking about this day, and an unbelievable player. So Paul should have won more trophies. But he didn't. But that wasn't down to Paul McStay's ability. If you know what I mean.
It's not your ability. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but you understand what I'm saying. So
no, I do.
And that's the thing in the respect of that. So I needed good players, and it was ironic. My best seasons when we had the better teams, when we were successful. That was my better seasons, because I could play with good players, because I needed good players to play with. Because I look back and I think now, maybe now more than most, is because every manager picked me. I was out of contract for 14 months and you were there during that period.
Oh my God. And we used to come down and you were saying, don't ask me, don't ask me.
And I'd be sign every Friday to play on a Saturday.
I know.
You know,
that couldn't happen now, could it?
No, because that's the thing. Because Celtic wouldn't sell me; they were asking for X, Y, and Z amount of money, but they could hold my registration. They didn't want me to go. They said, and I said, "Well, I need to go because you're not going to me a contract that I feel I'm worth." You know, and I was, you know, I wasn't anything but greedy. To let you understand, the problem was the contract I'd signed previous that was up when we won the double. They'd given me a 4-year contract, And every 4 years, year in that 4, they got money each season.
Right.
So by the end of the 4 years came, my contract's up. And it shows you what I was like. And I didn't realise, and not one of the years did my money go up the way it was supposed to be. Because if you don't tell them at that particular, but because I never checked, and that wasn't because I was on big money in any shape or form, but because all of a sudden it started to get into the bank, you just thought automatically, they'll automatically do it. So when I get into that, they're offering me a new 3-year deal, I think it was, and I'm saying, yeah, but then they'll say, right, you're starting on that, and I went, no, but I'm on near enough double that now. And they went, no, you're not. I went, yes. I said, every year it went up. That's what I signed when we won the double. They went, yeah, that's right, but now we're putting up to this. And I went, no, that's where we're starting from, because that's what I'm on for the last year. They went, no, it's not, you've been on this. And that shows you I didn't even care. As soon as they told me it was a 4-year contract I was signing, that was all I was interested in. I was going to be there for 4 years if I started to get about my business properly. So things like that. They had, as I say, the difficult times with illness and injuries and whatever. So you'd all the periods I had to go through that I look back now and I said, listen, that was meant to be. So I have absolutely no qualms. Of course, I'd love to have won more medals and, won more championships, all that. Of course I would have. But I say the biggest thing now I maybe look back at, and even summed up even when I was the time I was leaving, Wim offered me a 3-year contract the day after I'd come back. If you remember, I'd actually come back from pre-season to sign for Wolves. And that fell down, but I was away, and it was Henrik's first game at Hibs. Charlie goal. And I get the phone call straight after the game for Wim that says, listen, you need to come back into training. And we played Parma. I don't know if you remember, we played Parma. And it was it was bizarre because the season had already started. But we played Parma.
They used to do that. They played odd pre-season game.
Absolutely. And we played Parma, and he said to me after, why don't you re-sign here? He said, you're at an age and whatever. And I said, listen, Celtic, if I've got an opportunity to go, Celtic need to move on for me. I said, I'm 32 at this particular time. And he was like that to me. He said, well, why don't you sign just then even for a year? He said, because you're playing. I went, listen, he said, you're something that I've not got. That was his exact words. I look back now with great fondness as well, because Wim had only seen me, obviously, in training. Then he put me on at St Johnstone after the Hibs game, if you remember. I think young Simon Donnelly scored, and the fans were all chanting.
And Hendricks diving header.
And I think I'd already been away. Now, he put me on the bench that night, believe it or not. And I remember it as that was me back in the fold. I'd come back, as I say, for pre-season. The fans were chanting my name, which was brilliant to hear for me. And it was up at St Johnstone, of all places.
It was.
And we won. I'm not sure it was just Simon that scored, because I think we only won 1-0. Later on,
I think Henrik scored as well, because you know how I remember it, because I'd looked up. Celtic had lost their first 2 games of that season. If you remember, it was the Hibs game in Dunfermline. They lost at home at Dunfermline, and I looked it up, and I said, Celtic have never lost their first 3 games of the season. So I wrote a piece about it in the Celtic View, and it got picked up in all the papers.
Yes.
And Murdo said, what the hell are you doing writing in this? You're putting the pressure on us. I said, well, I hope I do put the pressure on you, because you better not lose the third. You should be inspired by that. Don't try to say that I'm trying to do you down. You better not let it happen.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. No, I know what you're saying. No, but then I played in the game, and it was funny. I went in the next day to do a bit of training myself, because I'd been away. I'd missed pre-season. I went on a trip as well. And as I say, I'd been away for about a week to 10 days, I think, and the Wolves thing had fell down. They'd agreed everything, and the chairman pulled it because I think Mark was under a little bit of pressure. Mark McGee was the manager at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And he was under a little bit of pressure, but he said to me he wasn't. And then I come back, taking part in the St Johnstone game, come back, and Jock Brown says to me after I was in training, he said, listen, son, he said, you've asked us to keep you informed of what's happening. He said, Norwich are really interested in you. And I was like, oh. He said, but I know you'll not want to speak to him. I went, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Right. And I actually went into wee Angie, God rest her.
Oh, yeah.
Asked her, I went round to get my boots. We're nearly in that where I went round there to get my boots. And she said, where are you going, son? I said, I'm playing 5s tonight, Ange. No, because I didn't say it, not to a soul.
And then, I know. I remember it was weird that you just weren't around anymore.
No, I went down Kerrydale Street that day, and I knew I never looked back. I had tears in my eyes because I knew and I travelled all the way to Norwich, got there at 3:30 in the morning, straight direct, not even home to see Lorraine or anything. I had to drive direct because I had to sign. If I was going to sign, I had to sign to play on the Saturday. This was a Thursday, and I got down there at 3:30 in the morning. And as soon as I walked in, Mike Walker, the manager, was there, and that made my mind up. That made my mind up that the fact he was still sitting in a hotel at 3:30 in the morning, waiting for me to sign. And then at 8:30 in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, you'd do a medical, which was touch your toes then. That was all you needed to do. Yes, you know, there was no such thing as all these scanning machines or whatever. And I'd played a lot of games. I had no problems with fitness or anything like that, so that was never a problem. And I signed, and I remember the furore after it because everybody was so surprised it had happened because nobody knew anything about it. And that's exactly how I left Celtic. It broke my heart, but it was the only way I could leave in the respect to that because, as I say, driving down Kerrydale Street, as I say, the tears were in their eyes because I knew that the last time I'd be leaving as a Celtic player, not as a supporter, as a Celtic player.
No, and it was like, I suppose it all changed because you're you think about you think about Paul, you think about John, and they'd gone in the kind of 18 months or whatever, 2 years before that, you know, Paul with his ankle, and then John had gone to Monaco. And it was like you three were quite a kind of constant, you know, in those really difficult early 90s periods.
Well, John had come in later on. I think John's seen about 3 years of it, maybe 3 years of it, 2 years of it, John's seen. We were in there, obviously. When you get to the Cup final 89, you win it. You stop Rangers winning, obviously, the treble. Then we get beaten penalties with Aberdeen, 9-8 and 9-8. You know,
one of the last games I ever cried at because it was like no Europe. Remember that was first.
Absolutely.
Only the second time in something like
absolutely. And then so you get all these history things, and it was soul destroying. Obviously, we have the Raith Rover scenario. I missed obviously through suspension, so I missed the final, which was heartbreaking. And people say, "Oh, you'd be glad you missed it." I was absolutely not. And unfortunately, as I said earlier, talking about Paul, you know, did anybody miss the penalty? It definitely didn't deserve to be Paul McStay. You know, that's for sure. But it did. And that, as I say, these things were wrote in that was what the script was wrote for us. And that's why I have no qualms and I don't have any regrets in the respect to that the periods there because I had a hell of a lot of good times, magical moments, centenary year, memory times, centenary time, Paisley. You know, all these things that I'll go down in folklore when you come back. Because even to this day, I still think Paisley will be winning points, but we don't. We obviously win it in goal difference. You know?
That's possibly, I would say, in terms of... My dad was in the hospital, like having a triple bypass the night Celtic 10 men won the league, so I wasn't there, you know. Like, I always remember, I think I've maybe told it to Peter Latchford, but my dad had all the heart monitors on. And in those days, you didn't even have there wasn't even a radio commentary in.
No, because I remember that was a game they were going to put on the television. I remember everybody was waiting because they were saying there was a possibility of going to go because it was a league decider in many respects. They were trying to put it on the television, but then finally at lastminute.com, it was, no, there's nothing on. You know, so everybody was just desperate. But it's the only time you've ever seen everybody outside playing at night up our way. That's for sure. It was 11 at night, about 11 o'clock at night because we'd won the league, you know.
We cut the. There was the Daily Record actual headline was 10 men won the league, and we cut it out and we walked about the playground out the next day. A headline for a paper.
You know, magical memories, and that's what I'm saying. And listen, I look at that then. So 10 men won the league. I ended up playing with along with most of them. That was a team really in 83, 84 that I've been breaking into. You know, and they're the team I'm really supporting for 78, really, that you start to know the individuals and the teams.
You knew them.
You know, like, and then when Paul broke in, it becomes Davy Provan, Murdo, Paul, Tommy. That was your midfield in respect to that. Then I broke into that. Then Tommy and Murdo became left back or left side. One would play left side and left back, and then I'd play in the middle. And I'm thinking, I'm playing a line with the guys I supported. This was a team I really supported as a young man. Then, you know, you were thinking, yeah, I know them all now. And then you were all of a sudden, you're in a dressing room, all these sort of things. So, special memories.
And as you say, but so I wasn't at the 10 men won the league. It was at Blooming Royal Hospital after my dad's 11-hour operation. But so Love Street for me in '86. That's my ultimate. I try and explain it to my boy, you know. You know, my brother didn't go that day. He said, it's gone. I said, it's never gone. My brother, and to that he lives with that. He lives with that to this day, you know, like that he never went. I said, John, you should go. You should go, and he never went.
Well, the funny thing was I'd missed about 3 games or something with a hamstring. I'd played in most of the games and I got a hamstring injury. So I'd been out, I'd missed 3 games. We played Motherwell in the midweek game.
We did.
And
we did. Only scored 2 goals, and you thought, that's not enough.
And Davy says, Davy Hay, a Celtic legend, fantastic man, as well as a great manager for me. He said to me, I'm putting you on the bench tonight. I'm like, what? Because I'm just back fit. I've only trained once in 3 weeks. He said, you're going on the bench. I went, okay, at Motherwell. I don't know if I come on in the game. I can't remember if I come on. I maybe think I did. But then, he put me on the bench at Love Street. Then I come on for Danny at the start of the second half, you know, but played in midfield. But as I say, it was magical. It was just but the funny thing about it was I'd get someone at a car by then, and we were going to a supporters do in Oban, and I was named Player of the Year. So me and Big Paul McGugan were going up. So I'd actually got he was security. He was doing security and all that, Big Paul. Yeah, he was doing all the security, but a great big guy, funny guy. And somebody taken my car down. I don't know if it was wee Scotty or Scotty's friend, taking my car to Love Street because we were going to leave for there. Like everybody else, you're hoping Hearts blow up, but they've not lost in about 22 games. So you're very much wishing. But the one thing I can always remember about that day, the experience of sitting in the dressing room, was we knew we could score 4 or 5. It was bizarre. We knew we could. It was just if Dundee could do that, and we just didn't see that. No matter, we knew they would give everything. We knew.
My brother didn't see it.
But we knew Scottish players. The one thing, whether they're Rangers or Celtic, they always give their all. It's difficult not to give your all. That's why I always say, you know, to anybody when they talk about players not trying, it's rubbish. You know what I mean? You have a great pride in yourself. So these guys went up there, and I always say it's Tosh's great claim to fame for Celtic. I always wind Tosh up about this because people tend to forget Albert Kidd got the 2 goals, but it was Tosh that was subbed off and Albert was subbed on.
Right.
So I left back for a forward player. So I say that was the best thing you ever done for Celtic, you muggy. You know, you know. But brilliant boy, a brilliant guy. And he should have, obviously, I'm one of these guys that should have been Celtic quicker. But he was a fantastic player as well. But in that game, we were going to, as I say, going to Oban. So obviously we won the league that day. We're celebrating, and Davies like that. You're coming back to Celtic Park. And I went, Gafford, but we've got to go. He said, you're coming back to Celtic Park. So I had to drive all the way back to Celtic Park through the supporters and whatever. So they're all on top of the car and everything and whatever. But then I only got into Celtic Park for an hour, so I don't have a drink or anything like that. And me and Paul jump into the car and got up to the Oban Celtic supporters. And it was a fantastic night, and what a way to celebrate it with the supporters and that. And it was a special night. And as I say, it's something I always remember.
Got 3 hours in those days.
Oh yeah, it was a trek and a half. It was a trek and a half, and especially with me, because I've never been out by Glasgow Cross in the car. So I'd went to Crazy House, and that was as far as I went. You know,
Crazy
House. You got off there.
Those wee arcade machines, remember?
Exactly.
What the butler
I got in one door and you came out the other door at the opposite side of the road and you thought you were somewhere else. We used to send postcards for there at Christmas thinking we were in a different place. But that's as far as I went. So for me to get to Oban, but the supporters were absolutely delighted we turned up. We had an unbelievable night and great celebration. So that's something that always sticks in my mind. And I always get mixed up. I always used to say Oban and Fort William, and I don't think the guys Oban were too happy with me. Definitely Oban. But what a trek that was. But it was a brilliant night and well worth it. And it was a great way to celebrate, as I say, my first championship.
As you say, they love you. I mean, but you had your, let's be honest about it, you know, like you were sometimes an easy target. You were sometimes picked upon by the supporters. And I mean, how did you feel about the kind of, was that the aim, or was that your teammates or the Peter the Pointer stuff and all that? Was that just
no Peter the Pointer? Yes. Well, to be fair, as you said earlier on, your television, you get highlights. Obviously, was it Scott Sport at that particular time? I can't remember. It wasn't Sports Scene. It was Scotland. I don't think.
I think it was Sports Scene this Saturday night in
Was
Scott
that still
Sport.
Sports Scene then, was it? Well,
Aye.
definitely. And it's Scott Sport and that. So the highlights weren't that long. If it was Celtic or Rangers, you could probably get 10 minutes each. And that was it. The rest of them get their goals, maybe. So there wasn't any massive highlights out with the goals, really.
Right.
And it was only in later years you start, and I've got a terrible habit of talking with my hands anyway. But if you watch when I was pointing, but I was talking about the other thing. I was looking the other way and all that because you just never. And exactly, I never knew. You never knew it was just a habit I'd get into, but I never knew I was doing it. Till people pointed it out, and then it's certain people have different traits. I just had that, and that never bothered me. At least, And listen, I had criticism, of course. It wasn't nice. You never like it. I've watched Tavernier and all that nowadays, and as I say, I feel for them. I don't care what player it is. It's no matter how big and strong they think they are, it hurts you. And I remember it. I
remember Jim Duffy saying to me, "Nobody likes to get criticised."
Listen, I live with it. Win, and certain games I'd get criticised. Well, there was games I know I'd done well in, and I would still get criticised. But I didn't like it. But that was the way it was, and that was, as I say, yet again, that's something you have to accept. That's life. But I knew in myself, and I look back now, and the great Tommy Burns and all the managers I played under used to say, we're the ones that count. We pick you.
Yeah.
We know what you give the team. And I had to sacrifice myself. I mean, my game's completely changed, even playing along with Paul for so long. But my game, I was always an attacking midfield. That's why I got into the team, because I could always, But all that changed then. If somebody get injured at right back, I remember they asked me to go to right back. I'd never stood at right back in my life. Never done anything else. So all of a sudden, I'm playing in a game for Celtic at right back. Now all of a sudden, my game of all looking in about tackling. Now you're jockeying players. So it all changed completely. I remember playing centre half one game at Ibrox, and believe it or not, we played a back three that particular day. I think it was Big Paul Elliott and Derek White and me behind them, and we were brilliant. We were brilliant that day, and we were drawn 0-0 to 89th minute, and I played with a cigar, honest to goodness, and I gave the goal away. And then the 89th minute, it was over the far touchline. I got there first, thinking I'd played that well. I'm thinking, well, I keep it in play, put it back down the line, and turn them round because a bit of space. Caught dilly-dallying in the respect, slipped over. They went through, cut it across, and scored, and they beat us 1-0. And I remember Big Billy.
Was that Mo Johnston?
No. That wasn't Mo Johnston. Probably McCoy, not my luck. But I think it was wee Durante.
My first game at the Celtic View, Celtic lost 1-0 to an 89th minute Mo Johnston goal, and I thought, is this the way it's going to be?
No, it wasn't Mo. It was before Mo's time. We lost, and Big Paul Elliott was playing. It could have been Mo Johnston, actually.
Because Paul Elliott only played for one season.
It could have been that season then.
Yeah.
And it could have been that. And
because they got an old guy out, because I couldn't do the view myself because I'd never done any newspapers. So they brought a guy out of retirement that Jack knew for the Daily Express. And I always remember his intro was for 89 minutes. The Celtic system was working like a charm. It must have been that game.
They were flicking. It was Haley was up front. I mean, it was Haley and Mo then. And they were flicking the ball on, and I was pulling it down in my chest and everything. Honest to God, I was like Franz Beckenbauer.
How many of those games did we see?
One mistake I made at the back. It was the first time I'd ever played. The point I'm making is, it was the first time I'd ever played in defence. Never known anything else. So all of a sudden, but the problem I had, I probably should have been stronger, even though, whatever. I should have just started no, I'm not playing there. I've never played there in my life. Don't embarrass me. We're playing it right back or whatever else. But
Big Billy, man,
but also the fact is, they used to say to me, I don't trust anybody else to go there. Right, okay. Sort of thing. And this was halfway during the game, bear in mind, the first time I ever played it right back. Halfway during the game, somebody got injured, and they're shouting Grant, they shouted over and then asked me, I'm not up right. All of a sudden you're finding out to yourself, well, I remember where Danny McGrain used to stand. That's as much as I knew. Try to think we're right back, right, I've got to be near my centre half, and all of a sudden it's a completely different game. So listen, I don't make excuses. I'd have played anywhere between 1 and 11. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
But you want to be judged in the areas where that's where you're predominantly asked to play. And there was all these things at that time. And as I say, my game adjusted for everybody because we played with two wingers all the time, predominantly. And it was only me and Paul in the middle of the pitch. John was probably, and Tommy was a left winger, but was more of a cheating left midfielder, you would say. But Davy Provan was an attacking right winger. We went in Europe, we always played with two strikers, not a number 10. No, nobody dropped them in. The two strikers would stand up the park with a cigarette in their mouth. And the two wingers would stand right out in the touchline. And me and Paul are wondering why it's a 5v2 in the middle of the pitch. You know?
And how did the whole kind of, that special bond that you developed with Tommy, how did that kind of...
Really since the first day, as I say, I went in at 15. And when you get it, predominantly the first team players get to know you very quickly. You know, you're in their dressing room, cleaning their boots, picking their kit up, cleaning the kit. And there was only, Paul was on with me at first with the great Johnny Sludden, God rest him.
Oh, yeah.
Stevie Jardine and wee Oney Archdeacon. That was your, and within months of me getting in, Paul was taken off it. Me, Stevie and Sluddy and Oney were on it. And then I think Sluddy went out on loan somewhere. And we just cleaned the boots, dressing room. So every first team player knew you and all that sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden, later on, they become your teammates. But Paul, because we're roughly the same age, we had no girlfriends at that particular time. So Paul, myself and Big Paul McGugan, if we went out on a Saturday, if the team had played well and we had won, we always went out on Saturday night, you know, and as I say, we used to go back to Paul's house in Larkhall sometimes. It was the only place we used to have to put all the songs on with earphones.
Yeah. We were not allowed to play them when my mum and dad were out and with the babysitter in. You know the Green and White Brigade record with the rosette in the front of it, and it starts with Celtic. You know,
on the Celtic song. I used to wind them up and I used to pull the headphones out so the house would be blaring. They'd be cussing and swearing, you know, you put them in. So, no, and we just had a great rapport and just say we're different guys, but we ended up being near enough roommates over the 14 years. I probably spent nearly 14 years with them with Paul. A couple of times I was shifted to do with the Canios and all that because they learn them all about
Celtic. I was about to ask about what a weird, because I was there during that. He absolutely adored you. You know what I remember? I mean, it's a pity we didn't know that he was a blooming Mussolini fanboy. Like, unfortunately, we didn't know about his politics then. But he always just wanted to be around you. He just gravitated around you. I remember we were in Slovakia. Do you remember and all that? And that weird hotel that was also a casino. Do you remember that one?
There was a few weird ones. Let me tell you.
Oh, and there was. Because we were worried that we wanted you get a really good turnout for you, and we pushed and pushed and pushed for your testimonial. We put it in the front page of the View for 4 weeks. We thought, how can we do this differently? It was just the week before it. And we said, Paolo, would you pose for a picture with Peter? I don't know if you remember this. And you expect to kind of arm round the shoulder. And instead, he plants this great big smacker. It's a great picture. He plants this great big smacker on your cheek. And it was, what a great picture. And then they came, you know what I mean? The crowds came that night.
Oh, listen, I always say, people say Celtic gave you a testimonial. I say, no, the supporters gave me the testimonial. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. Because if you remember, people all talk about Ferguson, whatever, but I remember he put up a friendly match against Barcelona 2 weeks before my game.
That's right.
And I'm thinking, dear, supporters, it's ridiculous asking them for money again, you know, to come out to testimonial.
It was freezing, remember? It was January, wasn't it?
I'm thinking to myself, we're playing Barcelona. I think there was only 22,000 or something turned up. But I'm obviously at this thinking, well, I'm going to struggle, really. I was going to struggle. I thought I was going to struggle anyway because, as you said, I wasn't the most popular in the respect to that. I had always great support in that. But I knew where I stood in the pecking order. So you're always a bit concerned, like everything else. So, yet again, I remember being in the dressing room that night and it was about 7:10, and we'd just come in from the warm-up, and the great Tommy Burns is obviously the manager, and he comes in to us and says to us, listen, the game's been held up. And I just start laughing because I thought it was usual banter for TV.
Oh, yeah.
You always have a bit of banter, you know, because I used to say to the boys, right, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, or 8 seconds, or 10 seconds, we used to put a bet on each other. And I used to sing something or hum something. And it was to see how long before Tommy joined in. You know, so I'd be sitting there humming Mac the Knife or whatever, and then Tommy'd start singing, so it was 4 seconds, whoever had 4 seconds would jump up, way, you know, collect the money. So I always said this, but he came in that night and he said, listen, the game's held up, guys, just hold on to the warm-up. And I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, right, what's he going to say now, you know, sort of thing, you know. And he says to me, no, genuinely, he said, they're all round the block and whatever. I went, aye, okay. He said, no, genuinely, we can't kick off to 8 for safety reasons.
I remember it.
I just couldn't believe it, you know, but nothing surprised me, the Celtic supporters in that respect, nothing. But that did, I must admit, that did that night, and that's why it was very emotional, and I was delighted that they decided to come to the game. As I say, it was, I couldn't probably describe the feeling, and that's why I say to this day, it wasn't Celtic who gave me the testimony, it was the supporters.
Yeah.
And listen, that's why I always look for Bayern Munich's result, because they were absolutely magnificent. If you remember, Andrew, you were working at the club at the time, and they sent Gerd Müller over about 2 months early.
That's right.
To do press conferences along with World Cup winners, you know, with Germany and all that. They were unbelievable. They were unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then the likes of Klinsmann, Matthäus, Oliver Kahn and all these blokes, they were brilliant. And you couldn't have done enough for me. You know, they really couldn't. Anything that was asked, and they'd done it. And the good thing was, prior to it, the one thing they asked, because not many people know we could try to get Inter Milan, because it had been 25 years, if I'm correct, or 30 years since Celtic.
I suppose it would have been just a bit, it would have been the 30th year, because 67, 97 kind of thing, wasn't it?
That's right, and it was 30 years, that's what it was going to be. And they'd agreed to do it. But then the Italian Football Federation decided not to have a winter break for the first time in a hell of a long time. And then they phoned up and said they couldn't do it. And then we thought, Bayern, they phoned Bayern, and they were unbelievable. As I say, Gerd Müller and that over, God rest them. You know, they couldn't.
What a team when you think.
They couldn't do enough for us. And then the team that came out, Klinsmann, Matthäus and all these boys, these were brilliant. It was a strong side. But the one thing they wanted was to make the game competitive, because they were getting in. They were starting the season on the Saturday.
Because they used to have a 6-week kind of when I shut down the Germans.
And that was the only thing they asked, to make it a competitive game. And always in my mind anyway, because I think supporters obviously pay a lot of money to come to testimonials. And I always used to think, well, there's a lot of changes and all that. I didn't want it to be that way.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be the team that I was playing with. Okay, yes, I'll invite my friends that I'd played along with to the game, but not to take part in the game.
Right.
You know, that was the way I wanted it, because I just felt people that to see a game, they'd paid money to come to see the game anyway. Bayern Munich were wanting to play their strongest side in the match, because they wanted to make it a competitive match. It was that competitive. You remember Ritosh was fighting Rizzatelli. You know, the two of them nearly getting sent off in the testimonial game. You know, but it was
it was a great speech you gave that night. Again, just so you said, you know, sometimes they're not always like some of the things you would maybe say about me. I just want to thank you, you know, like, you know, and it was like said, I was maybe not always your favourite player, but you know, like this has been my favourite. Like, you know, it was really moving.
No, but
it was moving. It was emotional.
I think you know me well enough. I've never been one of the ones to try and curry favour for any particular reason. That was never me.
You ran a mile for it sometimes. Ran a mile for it.
But that wasn't me. You know, I just wanted to go on. I knew every week. I used to say to you every week, next week's a blessing. You know, you say, and, you know, and people say, well, I don't forget last week, I'm home, but next week. And that was the way I looked at it, because I knew one day it would come to an end. And I didn't know when that was going to be. And people forget, we had no transfer windows then. It was every day.
That's true.
Yeah, every day you could be sold. Somebody else could come in to take your place. And many a time that happened, because when some people used to come in, midfielders used to come in, I used to tell Paul to be aware, because I didn't take his position.
Right.
No mind. And I used to wind them up about that. And then everybody used to laugh if it was a midfielder that you come in, because as soon as he walked into the dressing room, I'd say to him, all the best in the reserves. You know? Right. You know, because you had to put that wee bit of pressure on them. You know what I mean?
Because God.
You knew they were in to replace you, but listen, I was thankful. I seen a hell of a lot of them off.
God, you did. And obviously, probably, I don't know if it'd be, you'd consider it your favourite game or whatever, but it's maybe that there's not many people, and I know I've spoken to you this a bit about it before, but it's so true. I mean, the 95, the Peter Grant final, that's how it's referred to. Like, because it was a miracle you played.
Yeah,
it's a miracle you played.
That was probably the biggest thing more than anything else. My biggest concern was we'd went so long without a trophy. I'd missed cup finals. I'd been injured in cup finals previous, 85, everything, 88. All these ones, I'd heartbreak constantly. Then I'd the illness. Then I'd 3 different injuries with 4 months at a time with my knees. So I had a lot of different things. As I said, the illness was a nightmare just after we won the double. You think everyone's going to kick on, and then I was out for 6 months with an illness, you know.
What was it again?
Hepatitis.
What was it like? Oh, yeah.
But they told me I'd never play again after when I got that. That was this right away because I was in pre-season. We'd went on honeymoon, but me and Lorraine, we just won the double. Me and Lorraine get married and we went on honeymoon. And I trained not well on honeymoon. And didn't know what it was, obviously. But come back, went pre-season. I remember sweating buckets, couldn't sleep. You know, poison coming out my forehead and my cheeks and all that. Didn't know what was wrong. Come back home. Jack Mulhern, who was a doctor at the time. I went to see him when I come back. Scotty sent me to see him when I come back. And they could actually tell me I was into hepatitis for 6 to 8 days. But the scary thing was, when they mentioned the word hepatitis, I'd only heard it not long.
It wasn't as well known then.
Yeah, I'd only heard it a couple of weeks prior. And it was Russell Harty, the chat show, had died with hepatitis. And that was the first time I'd ever heard that word.
Right.
And the docs tell me I wouldn't play again. I'd struggle to play again with this. And I'm thinking, I've just heard a boy had died with it. The chat show host died with that. So all of a sudden I'm knocked down like a feather because I'm thinking, I'm a seriously ill, which at that time it was a serious illness. But to tell you I wasn't playing again, I just thought my world had collapsed around about me. If you're going for winning the double, I'd break my foot in the build up to the cup final and miss the cup final. That was another game that was put on because if we wouldn't have played St Mirren midweek, Macca would have missed the game. Frank McAvenny. A game that was put on a Tuesday night so we could against St Mirren, and I broke my foot in the first 5 minutes, but played right to the 86th minute because I wouldn't take my boot off at half time. Scotty's like, and I was like, and then he said to me after the game, he said, "Have you got a driver with you?" I said, "Well, a driver? What do you mean?" Sort of laughing. I was like, "No." He went, "Well, you can't drive tonight, son." He said, "You broke your foot." And I thought my world had ended because I think it was 4 weeks to the cup final or something.
That's right.
Then even got to the stage like similar to the Tommy scenario. Big Billy gave me every opportunity to play. So much so, I don't know if you remember, we played Queen's Park in a closed door game on the Tuesday night before the cup final.
Oh, right.
At Celtic Park, but I couldn't even put my foot on the ground. But he's taken me down with the squad and whatever. And I remember him coming to my room on the Friday evening before it. He says, "What do you think?" And I just sat looking at him. He said, "That's why I've come up here." He said, "You're nowhere near it again." And I went, "No." And he said, "I didn't want to say that in front of the boys because I know what you're going to be like because you've missed finals before and whatever." And he said, "Go and walk down the front." So I went down to the front to see him. I just walked along the front in tears because, again, I was missing another cup final. But little did I know that was the start of the illness because if you remember, Celtic Park was getting redone at the time and seemingly it was through drinking the water. As the stadium, because I was doing 25 miles on a stationary bike with my Stucky on, as they used to call them then.
Right.
The Stucky on. And I'd been drinking...
Oh, of course, the new frontage. That was the new frontage, was it?
Yeah, and I'd been drinking the water out the tap. And they'd been fixing that. And seemingly it was because of, obviously, water and whatever. And seemingly that's what I caught the hepatitis off, was off the drinking water.
Jeez, there's a lot of things you could have caught got run about.
Exactly, but little did I know at that time what it was and how long I was going about because that was torturous. I mean, I was lying in bed with a heart rate monitor at night, getting monitored constantly, irregular heartbeat, full jaundice, yellow. And I remember we used to do a run at Strathclyde Park. We used to take about 26 minutes, and it took me 5 hours. We Brian Scott walking around about.
You would have still beat me.
But all these things went on. So you were going for. That's what I'm saying. You talk about extremes to this, and all these things were going on. But listen, once you're back out in the pitch, and my first game back actually that season, we played Red Star Belgrade with all these superstars in it. If you remember, we drew 2-2, and I've got a funny feeling it was either Boxing Day. Boxing Day sits in my head.
I think did Mike Galloway spit in one of them or something? I remember there was some kind of or one of them spatting Mike Galloway. Or there was something. There was some real kind of dodging it. There was some real nastiness.
I'm not sure, but definitely.
Was it Christmas? You're right.
I'm
was
sure
it Christmas?
Was Boxing Day. I'm sure it was Boxing Day.
Aye.
No league fixture. And we played a friendly that night because I remember going back to Big Mick McCarthy's house after it, and that was my first game that season. And we drew 2-2, but I don't know how we scored 2 goals because we only got about 2 touches of the ball because they were brilliant. Young Prosinecki was only 17 at the time, but they had all the superstars of the Yugoslavia national team at that particular time.
Right, yeah.
They were all superstars. And they went on to all wonderful careers, that team.
Yeah.
And as I say, that was my first game back for the double winning year. And you're thinking how you get so high and then you become so low. But I had to keep fighting. So everyone was a fight, really. And that was the way. That's what made me. So I have no regrets, whatsoever. Of course, I'd have loved to have played in teams that were so successful and winning trebles and whatever. Of course I would have. But my time was marked out for me, so I would never say anything against that. It was good, bad, indifferent. I made some wonderful friends, teammates that I'm still in contact with this day. And we still talk about, as I say, I still get invited to things, centenary team, 85, 86 team, Paisley, all that sort of stuff, And
as I say, 95, I mean, because it was a miracle. Because, I mean, how, even a couple of days before, was your foot still in a boot at that point?
I had a brace on.
Brace, sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah, the funny thing was we played at Tannadice, if you remember, and I flicked the ball round the corner. And Jim McNally was a big Celtic man. Jim absolutely hammered me, side on, off. And I get carried off in the stretcher. So it wasn't looking great. It's only a few weeks away. And I remember after the game, we won the game. And I remember the great Tommy Burns, I'm not going on the bus, we got a car for someone. And I started stripping that one. I'm devastated, lying in tears on the bench. Tommy comes in distraught. Everybody leaves and it's just me and him. He said, listen, I've got a car coming. He said, I'm just me and you're going to drive to, I think it was a Bon Secure at that particular time. So we went down to the Bon Secure. They said, no, with 3 months at minimum. But all the way down, just shows you the Celtic manager's actually taking you down in a car and I'm lying there back with the seat back. And he was devastated for me because he was there all through the times I'd missed finals and whatever before the devastation. And I was really heartbroken. Obviously, we're in the final and we're getting so close, and all of a sudden, missed finals. We'd obviously hadn't won a trophy for long enough and seen all this going away. We win the trophy, brilliant, great celebration, but I've still not won it in my heart because I'm no part of it, and that's the way I was feeling in myself. So I got the brace on, whatever. So the brace was on. We went to Italy and that, if you remember. And obviously I couldn't take part. I'm watching the boys training. Just stopped at, 20th floor of a hotel in a gym. And I remember being distraught and tears in my eyes, cycling this bike with no care in the world because I'm thinking,
no chance.
No chance. I couldn't walk, I couldn't turn, never mind anything else. And this brace is on. So we come back and we're back about a week. And obviously I've not taken part in anything. And then I remember I think you'd been out at the house in Coatbridge. So I was out and Lorraine was out at the shop and she come back for the shop and I've got one of the wee fella's ball, the wee one's only a baby, Pete's only a baby, he's only one that was born at the time, Ramey wasn't born at the time. And I'm kicking.
See the one that the great big hair like your hair?
Yes. Both of them.
My word. That was some hair.
Yeah,
that was some barnet.
Exactly, So remember, I was out the back. Well, sorry, I was sitting at the wall inside the house, and I'm actually tackling the wall with the ball, but just side footing it because I've still got the brace on, but I was wanting to see if I could take the pain.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, that feels okay. Bear in mind, I've got a brace on, but I'm thinking, that feels okay. So Lorraine, just at that point, Lorraine comes up the side of the drive and goes by the wall I'm actually kicking. And she comes in and gives me dog's abuse, She goes, what are you doing? And I was like, Lorraine, I'm telling you, I feel okay. Like, what? She, give your head peace, man. I said, no, I swear, I feel good, I said, I don't really feel that, She's like, Pete, you've got a brace on. You're not going to feel it. That's why you've kept it. They're keeping it in one place. I'm phoning the gaffer. So bear in mind the cup final's coming up on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I've phoned Tommy the Tuesday night. Or the Monday night or the Tuesday night. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I said to him, Gaffer, listen, I've been kicking the wall with the ball. I said, and I'm not sure if you're going to believe me here, but believe me, because it's a cup final, I think I'm a bit away with it, And I could just tell in his voice, he's like, what? But I think he's trying to give me that wee bit of hope.
Let you down gently.
Aye, but hope, as if to say,
all right.
aye, but great, brilliant. You would be involved if you're fit. You would be involved if you're fit. That's great. But I think, I look back now and I know exactly what he's saying to me. Right, you're going to come in and try it. And we know it's not going to be there.
Right.
So that's fine. So again, and I remember I said, and in my head, this is the way things work when you get a wee bit more older. I remember saying to myself, I know what the gaffer's going to do. Him and Stark are going to put a session together the day that's going to rip the knee off me. The first thing we ever do, it's going to be something complicated that I've got to twist and turn and receive a ball in a certain way. All these things, this is all in my head. And I'm saying to myself, how can I keep it tight? I've got to make sure I've got to keep this leg tight. If it is sore, I've just got to not let them see it.
Yeah.
So the next thing, the balls came, and I remember the very first ball, Andrew, and it's just hit me at the end of the toe, and I'm thinking, oh dear, as if somebody hit me with a sledgehammer on the side of the knee. But I've not even flinched. And honest to God, I'm crunching my back teeth, never mind my front teeth. I'm crunching everything. And I could see Starkey sort of looking at me, and I thought, I trained on, get through training. So obviously Rosemary's speaking to, God rest her, speaking to Lorraine and whatever, and see Granty trained and all, and I know what's going on. She's asking, how's Granty tonight? Because they always spoke on the phone daily and whatever. And then Tommy, and I think Tommy's phone Lorraine, he says, if to say, listen, we're just letting him down, Jen.
Tell us the truth.
Aye, we know he's not going to be fit, probably, And she's like, don't tell him that. Because he's just not getting in. She said, I know what you're thinking, but he thinks he is. So he phones me on the Thursday night and he says to me, what are you thinking? I says, Gaffer, I'm fit. I think he was waiting me hesitating. And I genuinely believe if I had hesitated and thought, well, can I try tomorrow? I think he'd have went like, that's it, done. Team's picked. And I went like, I'm fit. That was the way I answered it. I had this in my head. Just say to him, you're fit. Don't beat about the bush. Don't make a big story. Don't talk too long. Just say you're fit. So that was fine. I said I was fit. So he said, that's fine. No problem. Great. Get into the park in the morning. Train before we go to Seamill. And he says to me, what are you thinking? I said, I'm ready to go. He said, good. I'm naming the team when we go to Seamill. Named the team and I was in the team. But I still say to this day, if it wasn't Tommy, he wouldn't have gave me up to the last minute. And he knows.
Right.
I would never have let Big Billy down, and I knew Big Billy knew, but I knew I wasn't fit for that.
Aye.
Couldn't stand.
Yeah, you wouldn't have put yourself before.
I knew this one, but I knew this one. I had to play in it. I just couldn't give this opportunity, and I didn't care. And I was being selfish.
Was it painful?
Oh, excruciating. But if you remember,
was it Alan Lawrence near the end, the saving tackle?
But if you remember, you see the pictures, obviously the tape that Scotty had put on. I mean, my leg was taped as if I'd stuck it on. So it was like a straight leg I was running with, But in my head, I'm thinking, I can suffer the pain after this. I don't care. I can suffer the pain. Just don't let me down. That was my prayers. Don't let me down. Let me get through the game. But not letting the team down or the supporters down, obviously. The manager, everything like that. Just let me get through the game. Obviously, you want to win the game for sure. Yeah. Don't let me let anybody do me what I do with being selfish. But I can honestly say that was the first time I was ever selfish towards that, because obviously I was in agony. Scotty put the strap on it, felt good. They'd shaved all the legs so the strap would make the full thing. And I managed to play in the game.
But you're man of the match.
Yeah, but to be fair, I couldn't even have told you that after the game, Andrew, in the respective awards.
Did you have to take painkillers and all that?
No, it wasn't even that. It was just the fact that the relief, people think, you see myself and Tommy and Paul and Tommy and me and Paul and whatever, people don't understand what you've had to suffer. I think it was about 3 years, through the full 6 years, Packy, Paul and myself, we went through the full period.
Yeah.
So we were there for 2 years or a year, winning a trophy after a year. For some of these boys, winning a trophy after 2 years. I think after that, John was maybe 3, maybe. John was maybe 2. I don't know. I can't remember how long John had been there. But it was maybe 2 or 3.
5. So he came in summer in 90. I came in 89. No, that it's like I'm saying that as if I was the star signing.
Well, John must have came after the Aberdeen final.
After the Aberdeen final,
Yes.
him and Charlie.
That's right.
Him and Charlie coming back.
So John had came then, so they'd seen a big part of 4
He'd seen a
5 years.
big part of it. Yeah. So you guys can understood.
And Paul a lot.
The full shebang.
Full shebang we went through.
Oh.
You know. So
no money off.
Nothing off. No pre-sales, nothing.
No discounts.
No discount. I try and forget most
no
of it.
Discounts for the dismal years.
Absolutely. So I remember the final whistle going, and it was just sheer relief. Yeah, it was just sheer relief. It was a really poor cup final. It was just relief for everybody, supporters, everybody. And I look back in it, and I remember, obviously you go celebrate after the game, but I never had a drink to the Sunday night. I had a bottle of beer, and I think we went back to Tommy's house. I had a bottle of beer in Tommy's, one bottle of beer, and I couldn't even finish it. Because I remember that night saying to myself, I've went 6 years, and I always used to think I'd be winning 1, 2 or 3 trophies a year with Celtic. That's what you're supposed to do when you're a Celtic player. And in our time, that was hard because obviously Rangers were good sides, good players, you know. And it was always, you had to fight for everyone. And even when I started, Aberdeen, Dun United, Hearts, Hibs, they were all very good sides. So it was always difficult, don't get me wrong. I think people sometimes forget that, how good these sides were.
I just talked to somebody about it tonight, actually. I said, it wasn't just Celtic and Rangers, that's why Celtic weren't necessarily finishing second, it would be 4th or 5th. Because Aberdeen and Dundee United were good teams.
But good players as well, good players. The national team was full of them, And listen, really, you look at Dun United with Hegarty, Neri, Aberdeen with Miller and McLeish, but that was part of it. Sturrock's, you think of all these guys. Sturrock was as good a striker as you'll play against. If he was playing nowadays, he was brilliant. Listen, you go to the European game against Roma and get cheated. Aberdeen won against Real Madrid. So these are all the teams we were playing against then. So there was no divine right at that particular period.
No.
Even in my time, with the Rapid Vienna fiasco, with Atletico Madrid playing behind closed doors, and I listened to Big Roy and Danny and that particularly talking in that period, and they say they genuinely felt that we could have won in Europe the years.
The Rapid Vienna one, definitely.
But Atletico Madrid, but if you remember, they got to the final. We actually drew 1-1 in Madrid and get beat 2-1 at home.
With behind closed doors,
no supporters. And that was all because of the Rapid Vienna fiasco. They got to the final and get beat by Everton. Atletico Madrid, I don't know if they actually won it or get beat in the final as well. So, when I listen to Roy and that talking about it, they genuinely feel that we could have went on and won in Europe that year. Right. And that shows you that these things that weren't meant to be. So there was a lot of things you had to deal with. So there was a lot of emotion over different years I was there. But the cup final, as I say, I suffered for it after it for about 9-10 weeks. I couldn't even get in my car. I couldn't lift my leg up in the respect of that. But it was worth every minute of it, But genuinely was. And I'm glad I was selfish probably for the first time. As I said earlier on, maybe I should say to the managers, no, I'm not playing there or whatever. But that genuinely was the first time I was selfish and said, no, I am fit. And when Tommy gave me the opportunity, he asked me straight and I gave him a straight answer, yes, I am. I'm ready to play. That was the one time I was probably sweating more, concerned that I had to come off after minutes. And thankfully, I didn't need to do one of the tackles till late on against Lawrence, and that opened my knee completely up again. And that was it, back to square one again. And that's why for 9-10 weeks after that, I could hardly move, because that was the scenario I was supposed to be in the first place. But it was worth every second there. That's for sure, just to see that cup getting lifted.
And you talk about things that weren't meant to be. It felt like that when you come back, with Tony. It just 8 months, and it was...
Well, as I said at the time, West Brom were an excellent side. They're a very good side. We used to get so many plaudits, and the way Tony played was the ideal way Celtic would want to play. We went to Aberdeen, if you remember, I think it was the first league game.
Yep.
I know people would be laughing, we'd talk about the Wembley Cup and all that sort of stuff. You'd won the Wembley Cup and all that.
That was a great weekend.
It was a great weekend, but you're building the team, you're trying to build it, and different things like that. We go to Aberdeen, the first game of the season, 3-1.
McGeady and Maloney.
Ripping them apart. And that's Tony's team, wanted to play that way, and that was it. But it just, for that particular period, as I say, that you're 4-1 up at Aberdeen, 4-4, Rangers, people forget, the 3 penalties we get
3 penalties at Ibrox.
But on the Monday, they phone up and say, yeah, you should have had 3. Okay, but we lost the 94th minute winner, against us that day after a sending off, if I'm right, Scott Brown.
Well, that was 2 different games.
That was a different game. Sorry, you're right. Yeah. You're right. It was 2 different games. But 3 penalties. You ever heard anything like that in your life? It was Zheng Ji, if I'm right, Sean Maloney and Aidan McGeady all get pulled down. Stone Wallers in the game.
I think Walter Smith even admitted to 2 of them. Walter Smith said, I would have wanted penalties for.
Absolutely. But they phoned up and said on Monday that the 3 penalties, they were 3 penalties. Which is quite incredible.
Thanks a bunch.
But you know what I mean? So, listen, and I always said to you, and you always remember that, I didn't want to be coming back as the Celtic supporter. I had a job to do. I'd been down in England as a coach for a long time, earning my corn, working as a coach, and I wanted to come back, not being the ex-Celtic player as and such, I wanted to come back.
Oh, so you ran a mile for that. You didn't really...
Yeah, I didn't want to be jumping up and down the touchline. I didn't want me to be getting asked all the questions because everybody's wanting to ask me because I was a long time at Celtic. And I was like, I'm not the manager. The manager's Tony. Mark's there as well. I say, guys, the players are there. I'm in the past in the respect to that. And people say he wasn't the same Peter Grant. I was like, no, you're right, because if that's what I wanted to be, I'd be sitting with a scarf on, jumping up and down like a loony. And I don't think that was going to help anybody. Everybody had my opinion to say all the time, and I would say it, and Tony sometimes would agree with it and wouldn't agree with it, but he'd always know it, and I think everybody knew that, and the players knew that as well. But at that particular time, again, forget any of the results. When we lost to St Mirren, just the St Mirren game itself, we deserved the sack for that anyway. So I
remember you saying that to me. And
that's no disrespect to St Mirren in any shape or form. That performance deserved that, and I've absolutely no qualms about it. And it wasn't. I know I keep saying it, but it wasn't meant to be. Some things in life, sometimes. But then I'll look at it and say, right, that happened. But then I'm back down south, and I've done this and I've done that, and was fortunate enough to do this and do that. So maybe that was the path I was supposed to go on. I don't know. And listen, everybody knows what Celtic meant to me anyway. If I needed to jump about a touchline to show somebody I'm passionate about Celtic, I think I'm in the wrong party then.
Yeah. And now you still get a connection with Celtic, with the Celtic punditry, and we can't, or analysis is Martin O'Neill. You're never allowed to call Martin O'Neill a pundit. Yeah. No, I'm an analysis. So it's Peter Grant, the analysis there. Okay? But and you're doing I know the way I tripped over analysis. I know. Oh, late. I'm losing it. But when you're doing the Camino in a few weeks.
Yes, I'm
really. How many miles are you doing of it?
I think it's about 130, or just under 130, or just under over 130. What we're doing is, I'm really looking forward to it. I think the most we work in one day is 30k in one day. That's the most. But every other one's about 25, 20.
You'll squish it. Well,
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I've not been at a lot of the build up to it because obviously the times I'm working on the weekends quite difficult for me because my son's obviously playing. If I'm not doing the Celtic TV or you're watching, you know what it's like. I've got a dog, my other one works, so you've got to help them out. That's your job. When you're their father, you've got to have other jobs on. So sometimes you can't manage the other walks with the group. But I'm really looking forward to seeing them all and doing the walk. And when Jane asked me, I said I'd be absolutely delighted. And obviously,
you've made a lot of money, and people can still donate. I take it, can they? Right up to the
walk? Absolutely. I'm terrible with computers and all that, so they all put it on there for you to make sure you raise the money you can. And as I say, the people at the backing I've had's been tremendous. And as I say, I'm really looking forward to it, but because it's people from all different kinds of work. There's no other footballer on it, so I'll be meeting people as in talking to them.
And your faith's important to you. It's somewhere like it's very spiritual. I'm hoping to do it for my 60th if God spares me.
Well, as I say, St James's Bones is in the cathedral, obviously, but St Daniel's on the walk as well. And Lorraine's father's name was James, and my father's name was Daniel. So that's part of obviously the reason I would like to do it as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. The fundraising has been excellent in the respect that the people have supported us, and as I say, I'm really looking forward to meeting individuals.
Yeah.
I've met them, as I say, some, because you're getting them on FaceTimes and whatever, and then you've been in certain meetings, but I've not seen them all together. So I'll get to know every one of them during the walk, I'm sure, because I can talk.
Well, do you know, when my cousin did it, you can do one that's the silent Camino, and I thought, he's definitely not doing that, because I would sponsor you for about $500,000 for that one, because I would never need to pay it.
Absolutely. And obviously I just need to point then. But no, I'm really looking forward to it. As I say, with all the individuals, I'll have different stories to mine, and I'm looking forward to, as I say, that breaks your day up when you're on your walk. You'll be at the front, you'll be at the back, you'll be at the middle. But each day I'll make sure I'm with different people so I can get to know insides and outs of people, and they can get to know me, because people obviously know you for the football.
No.
But I think there's a lot more I can talk about than football, you know what I mean? So
there always was.
Yeah.
No,
and that's what I'm excited about, and as I say, I'm willing to do that. And as I say, all fundraising is fantastic we can possibly do. As I say, it's going to things that's close to your heart, what Celtic are built on, and the traditions of Celtic are built on. And if we can help out in a small way, I'm delighted to do that. And it's the first time I've done anything like that. I mean, I try and keep myself fit with running and that in the morning at this minute in time, and when I possibly can. But to go on a walk, in that respect, I'm really looking forward to it. As I say, it's something I've not done before, and it's a challenge that, as I say, it is another challenge. But
definitely.
As I say, it's one I'm really looking forward to. I thought it was a challenge to a friend of mine, Michael Jobson, walked the 7-week one.
All right.
He done that. He done the full
shebang. I'd love to do that if I retired. And,
he done the full shebang, and as I say, he's been a great support in the background to me, to tell me, So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, God bless you, Peter, and Godspeed when it comes up. And thanks very much for your time. And it's been a pleasure to know you for nearly 4 decades. And
well, I used to know you over here, and Big Derek used to say it was as if it was a birth couch. It's not a birth couch anymore.
Right. I'll tell you, with that, it was quite a mob top, didn't I? And quite a mob top. I was proud of that mob top.
You're like Right Said Fred now. You know what I
mean? Wrong said Freddie. Well, people, was it Andy Walker used to always slag you because one of your famous phrases was, "Okay, he was that guy. He was bald with red hair." That was the one you used to
say. Bald the boy with the red hair.
Aye. God bless you, Peter.
It's been a pleasure. Anytime, guys.
Thanks for your time.
It's a pleasure. All the best.
Good night now.
God bless.
Good.
Bring me sunshine in your smile.
We hope you enjoyed that podcast. There will be more along soon. Please share the joy of Celtic Underground. Rate us wherever you can find us on your podcast provision, and also subscribe to the celticunderground.substack.com. As you'll be aware, there are 2 types of subscription. There's free subscription, where you get a certain amount of content delivered directly to your email address, and then there's a paid for subscription, where you get even more content delivered directly to your email address as and when it comes out. Anyway, enough of me. We hope you enjoyed the podcast, and this is me, Harry Brady, saying good night and God bless. Good night.
Bring me sunshine in your smile. Bring me laughter all the while. In this world where we live, there should be more happiness. So much joy you can give to each brand new bright tomorrow. Make me happy through the years. Never bring me any tears. Let your arms be as warm as the sun from up above. Bring me fun, bring me sunshine, bring me love, sweet love. Bring me fun, bring me sunshine, bring me love.